NFL podcast. Would have pleased Aaron Rodgers by now.
From the Chris Wessling Podcast Studio, it's the Around the NFL podcast. I'm Dan Hansis. I'm joined by Greg Rosenthal and Mark Sessler. And boys, this is the flagship show. We're going to be talking about Sunday of Week 7, or as it will be forever known going forward, Duck and Cover Sunday. Hit it.
Dum dum, deedle dum dum, deedle dum dum, deedle dum dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you
and you, duck and cover.
Oh, yes. 6 games today, decided by at least 22 points, tying an NFL record. We got 2 more to go as we're taping this. Greggy, it's Duck and Cover Sunday. It's been branded, and it can only go forward.
Did you know that song beforehand?
No,
or
that was...
You found it?
That was one
because
of those
when I
gifts
think
from the
like
internet.
one team like destroying another in a football game, I don't know if that's like the musical accompaniment that fits.
I mean, but I would say we have the rights to that song because it's from 1861, so it's crossed the 100-year.
There's a lot of bad games. A lot of bad games today, Dan.
A lot of bad games, and that was how, if it's crazy to think about it, that's the Defense Department sending out videos or films for school children to watch in the early 1950s, to be aware that a nuclear bomb could come and blow you up at any moment, but if you duck and cover. Here's the thing. We didn't have time to duck and cover. We didn't see this coming. Well,
No.
maybe Jets fans saw this coming.
No psyops coming our way from the government as children for this one.
But, yes, so this was a day of gnarly blowouts, and we're going to get to all of them because even though, Mark, there were a lot of lopsided affairs and not much in the way of drama, we learned some things about teams, good and bad, that we will be able to take out of it going forward.
Well, that's first of all, maybe I'm different on this front a little bit because I've always liked the occasional blowout, and it's a Sunday with a lot of statements by certain teams that I think felt a little disrespected, a little doubted, and they've basically told us, correct your thinking about us. Please.
Right. In theory, you could have seen some of these coming because we had 3 of the biggest lines of the year all in one week, but 2 of these blowouts were from underdogs, so no one saw it coming.
All right, so we got Nick Shook coming up.
Well, unless you read my underdogs column in which 2 of them were predicted, but that's okay.
Well,
no one's reading that, apparently. I understand how this works.
Well, you also locked up against one of those, so that it's hard to try to take credit.
Don't try. You're muddling the message.
It's hard to try to take credit for a thing you locked.
I did it correctly in one format.
Right. Well, that's all you've ever gone for. You said just give me one format correct. And you just
this format, yeah. We'll talk another.
It's like in craps, and I don't know how craps works. I just watch people, and I'm astonished by it. It's like I'm going to put this thing here. Just get it right. Give me one, and I'll take the dub.
It's the perfect column for you because I have read the column. You don't pick upsets. You just say, here are 6 games where there could be an upset.
It's absolutely perfect.
It's not even picking
I can
it.
point
That's
to
just,
anything
either
I want
way,
to
you're right.
suggest that I've been correct, and that's all that matters.
How did you come up with that? That's great. All right, let's
through
get
confusion. I can promise you.
Let's get into the game, starting with a blowout.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. That's what this film is all about. Duck and cover.
Burrow in the gun on 3rd and 2. He'll look to pass. Quick throw.
Nice.
Slant caught by Chase. Runs to the 30.
Nice.
Breaks
Go,
out of the pass.
go, Shamar.
He's sprinting down the middle of the
You
field.
got it,
The
baby.
Ravens 40.
See
Pulling away at the 30. 20. 10. Touchdown.
Woo, baby.
How great is Jamar Chase?
Woo,
82 yards to the house.
Oh, my goodness. Even Bert the Turtle could not deny that Jamar Chase is special. Certified special. Joe Burrow threw for a career-high 416 yards and 3 touchdowns, including, that 82-yard strike to Jamar Chase, who shed some tacklers and was off to the races. Huge play in the Bengals' 41-17 win over the Ravens in Baltimore, a game in which they pulled away, boys. It was a back-and-forth game. It looked like, this is game of the day written all over it for the first, I'd say, 2.5 quarters. And then Cincinnati just found another gear. And that's what I took away from this game. It wasn't just about Joe Burrow being excellent or Jamar Chase being transcendent. This was a total team effort, Greg, where the offense, passing game, the running game, the pass protection, and the defense all showed up at the same time. And guess what? Cincinnati now at 5-2 is tied with the Ravens atop the AFC North. Whoa.
This is a statement game.
Now you're in on the statement.
I'm now in.
All
I
right.
mean, to put up
7 years.
To put up 41 points in Baltimore about a year after the Ravens embarrassed the Bengals. And I know the last year's Bengals were a much different Bengals team, but Joe Burrow was there, and they weren't ready. Zach Taylor was there, and they weren't ready. And I just remember that game so well as a total embarrassment. And to put up this many yards of offense, 520 on the Ravens a week after the Chargers struggled so much. I did not think the Bengals offense had this in them. I thought they could have a win in them, but I did not think they had a 40-burger and 520 yards of offense in. They are one of the best big play offenses in the NFL. Jamar Chase by himself is like one of the best big play offenses in the NFL.
You could see it coming, though, if you – and I know that, you could chalk this up as nothing, but some of the actual super confident quotes coming from Jamar Chase and others in the weeks leading up to this. This is a different Bengals team. It starts with their defense as well. Trey Hendrickson has been a great signing for them and been on fire last couple weeks. Sam Hubbard on defense. They're really well coached, and they just have explosive elements. I mean, Jamar Chase, it's not just about Burrow and Jamar Chase, but 201 yards off 8 catches. He has a game-changing deep pass in every one of his 7 rookie performances. I mean, they just have elements they didn't have a year ago. And I think the Ravens, this was a game where it makes me look at what happened against the Chargers last week with more bafflement because it's just such a week-to-week matchup-type league. But they are also a team that is very banged up. Their replacement running backs that were getting a lot of praise did not show up today. And you couldn't keep pace. At one point, the Bengals scored on 6 of 7 drives. That's unheard of for something that Bengals fans have seen in recent years.
How'd Lamar look?
Happening.
Lamar looked like he wasn't bad, but Cincinnati clearly had him figured out a little bit in this game. And I thought it was interesting. There was a moment in the game, I believe it was after the Jamar Chase touchdown, where Cincinnati went back up and Baltimore sensed things slipping away, and they had a 4th and 1 deep in their own territory. And they called a Lamar run. He runs for the first down. You're like, okay, they're going to get going here. It was very hard to get those 10 yards, but we got it. They go 4 and out on the next 4 plays, turn the ball over deep in their own end, and then Joe Mixon takes it into the end zone, and the game's over. And people are pouring out of M&T Bank Stadium. We could talk about what's wrong with the Ravens and are they a fluke and a mirage? I don't think any of that is in play. I still feel very good about Baltimore. But, this is just the state of the NFL right now. Maybe it's always been this way, but it feels even more so this year. It doesn't matter if you're home or away. If one team comes ready to play and has a good game plan cooked up, you can get embarrassed in your own building, and it happened again in this game. And I think, Chase, you had talked about it, Greg, going into this game, that Cincinnati's offense.
Right, you got to spread it around. So much for that.
Right. I don't know, and maybe you do because you need depth and you need guys to contribute. Injuries can hit at any time. But this Jamar Chase thing is turning into something special. We are looking at a guy. You got to go back to Odell Beckham. And I know Justin Jefferson was awesome last year. But to me, you got to go back to Odell's first year with the Giants when a guy took over the league. And you're like, oh, my God, what's happening here? 8 for 201. That breaks Speedy Thomas's franchise rookie record of 177 yards receiving, set in 1969. He is a one-man wrecking crew, and his chemistry with Burrow, obviously the LSU teammate thing, this is carried over, and they are locked in together.
I mean, he has more than 500 yards than the number 2 receiver on the team, which is Boyd. He has 500 more yards than him. I mean, this is a historic rookie season so far. I'm not concerned about the Ravens long term, but I do think their run game and their defense has been mediocre mostly this year. Wasn't last week, and I was not sending their running backs praise last week personally. It was their offensive line did blow open some big holes against a really bad run defense, but this week 12 carries for 21 yards. They just don't have a running game other than Lamar Jackson that they can rely on. And the Ravens, even though the passing game is dynamic, they don't make sense to me if they don't have a running game.
No, and Lamar was 4 for 12 with 67 yards when a pressure was applied with 5 sacks. And the Bengals did it right. 17 of 36 dropbacks, they applied pressure.
Who had the Bengals being 5-2? I mean,
nobody.
0.
That's the most sacks Lamar Jackson's ever taken in a game. And Zach Taylor gave a game ball to the entire defense after the game. He gave a game ball to Jamar. He gave a game ball to the quarterback. And you know what we've never actually done on the show, I think? And this feels like the perfect time. Let's hear from Zach Taylor speaking to his team in the locker room after the biggest win of his career.
But I could not be prouder of the complete team effort that we've been waiting on all season. And you guys saved it for a road game against the Baltimore Ravens. Hats off to you guys.
How about that? And then let's just wait. Listen,
it's trying to get us excited about Zach Taylor.
I want to pitch something here. We lost Wes in February. I know he had a complicated relationship with the Bengals, but this is Cincinnati. This is an entire Wesseling family that's getting excited behind the scenes. The Cincinnati Bengals, team of ATN. Who's coming with me?
I'm in. I'm in.
Mark, it's the Bengals. It's not like the Ravens or the Steelers.
I mean, what? How bendable? How bendable am I? I mean, I can enjoy what I'm watching.
Often, whenever we talk,
you were rooting for the Bengals today.
This is different, and honestly, like I'm not. This is not the Ravens. I'm not going to give you attitude about it, but it's I'll go with you. But I'm kind of like the person that's being brought along on a car trip with another family, and I just have to.
I'm in.
So you are bendable. You could say no. It's fine.
I mean, but because it's like 12 weeks of us arguing about it. I'll.
Well, we haven't even had one for years at this point. So
I see where you're going. I understand.
It is funny when they play the Browns a couple times.
One question I have is who dey?
I mean, if we're going to be doing that all.
Who they think gonna beat them Bengals? Who they? Who they think gonna beat them Bengals?
I mean,
it just bothers me though that they do that and the Saints do that. It's just like that was the Saints thing. I don't even know who was first. I don't care. They've been doing it forever,
Well, it should matter who's first. We'll look into that. Might decide whether they actually are the team.
It just bothers me.
All right.
Find a day that we pick an AFC East team as, team of ATL. Never is the day. This is starting. Now I'm realizing that I'm annoyed by this, just to let you know.
Oh, now we're learning that. As soon as I looked up and saw your eyes, I was like, uh-oh.
I mean, it's a bridge too far for one person on the show.
Fair enough. They won't be the team of ATN. Listeners, if you're upset about this, please, @Mark.
Well, no, hold on, though.
Yes.
In the spirit of Wes would never have signed up for the Browns as team of ATL because we are AFC North foes, and I would have understood why he wouldn't.
He wouldn't sign up for the Bengals as team of ATL. That's the thing.
Much
in fact, we
he
did
had a strong
a couple
dislike
times.
for
We
the
did
Browns
try
too,
to.
but
What if
anyways.
Wes comes to you in a dream tonight and says, yes,
Then I would do it
Make
in a
him
second.
the team of
Then I would
ATL.
do it in a second.
All right. I don't think Wes would
Can
be
you
down.
control that too?
I do not think Wes would be down with the Bengals as team of ATN, but I really wish he could have seen this team taken off right now because that would have been
true.
an
He did
interesting
love Joe
conversation.
Burrow. He believed.
He really did.
Yeah.
So let's take a break. All right, so one blowout. Interesting, but a blowout. Let's move to another interesting blowout.
That's why these children are practicing to duck and cover just as you do in your school. We
Duck
all
and
know
cover
the
Sunday.
atomic bomb is very dangerous. Since it may be used against us, we must get ready for it, just as we are ready for many other dangers that are around us all the time.
Now going in motion, Tannehill. Direct snap, Henry. He throws in the end zone. Man is wide open. Caught. Touchdown, Titans. Michael Pruitt. The Titans go to the King Cat. And the King has thrown for a big 6.
Mike Keith with the call, WGFX. Derrick Henry. What do you call him? The King Cat? The King Dog? What did you just call
The
him?
big dog.
He calls him King Cat, like
I heard
wild,
King Cat, yeah.
like Wildcat.
Off of his
And he's
Direct
yeah,
snap to
touchdown
Henry.
throw.
Okay.
Derrick Henry's touchdown pass to Michael Pruitt was the first of 5 consecutive scores to start the game by the Titans, who jumped out to a 27-0 first-half lead on the Chiefs and route to a 27-3 win. That changes a lot about how we should view the AFC from this point forward. Mark, lots of bad Chiefs talk here if we want to go there, and we will. But let's start with Titans good. Tennessee has beaten both of January's AFC title game participants in the span of 6 days.
Yeah, and I know that, just from when I occasionally log on to Twitter, that is a pain in the butt sometimes. But there are a lot of annoyed Titans fans who think that me, you, the rest have not given them the credit due. And I think we're allowed to have our opinions change on teams over the course of a fortnight, over the course of 10 days. Look what they've done over the last 10 days. And today, even when they beat Buffalo, it's like you still have to go do it to the Chiefs, to the point that, Erica and Gravedigger, I'm sorry, but Greg and I locked up the Chiefs. That was a show of disrespect. So did Nick Wesleyan and the Wesleyan boys. It went very poorly, and you know what?
That is awesome.
You got to eat it if you're one of us, because we were totally wrong. Who saw the Titans putting up 277 first-half yards to 67 for the Chiefs, owning the ball for 23-plus minutes? The kind of game where, if you're us and you're tracking it and you're not at a Tennessee or Nashville-based sports bar, you can watch the second half with kind of a side eye, because everything you need to know has happened. And it was, to me, a day where kind of everyone involved said, you have counted us out after that Week 1 Arizona loss. Look at us now. Ryan Tannehill, who at one point was 14 for 16 with 195 yards and a touchdown. The game at that point was 24-0. It felt over. A.J. Brown, who won his courageous battle with Chipotle. We don't know what was inside that Chipotle product. It's been it's guesstimated that it could have been old shrimp, stale meat, but whatever. It's out of his system at this point. He was fantastic.
Could have been bad vegetables,
today.
Mr. Vegan. It could have been something non-meat related. It's possible. Certainly possible.
I would put that lower on the scale of probability,
bacteria.
but it is possible.
That's all I'm saying.
E. coli or mad cow
If we don't have the
scenarios.
answers, we can't make assumptions.
This is a game also where the Titans were not healthy for big chunks of time. Taylor Lewan is obviously out. Their backup, Kendall Lamb at left tackle, was in and out of the game. Roger Saffold, who is honestly one of the biggest people I've ever seen in my life. The way he looked in his uniform today, I thought it was like Roger Saffold ate Roger Saffold, and then that's what we saw. Ben Jones got hurt at one point. They're still dominating left and right.
So
and
he cloned himself and then ate the clone.
Right, unless there's another man named Roger Saffold also. But I would just say this wasn't a game where, like last week, you just gave it to Derrick Henry and that was it. It was everyone else telling you, we're also capable. This was an A.J. Brown game where he was totally dominant. Julio Jones made a couple big catches, and their defense put it on the Chiefs. If we want to talk about the Chiefs, it was
We will talk about the Chiefs. Let's stick with the Titans for now. That sounds to me, Greg, like one of the most surprising developments of the year, that the Chiefs not only, all right, so their defense struggling, not so surprising. The offense, though, going to the tunnel shutout, managing just 3 points, Patrick Mahomes getting bullied. Never would have seen that coming.
I mean, the Titans didn't score in the second half, am I right?
Nope.
The fact that the Chiefs scored 3 points in the second half when they're down like that, to me that spells out the difference of where they are right now versus where they've been in the last couple of years. Because they worked really hard. After halftime, they have a 10-play drive, 8-play drive, 18-play drive, and 17-play drive. And yet you can't hit any big plays. You get 3 points out of all of that work. One of them ends with, Mahomes out of the game. Henny's in there, and they fumble away that one too. Not that it made any difference. That's the part that you have to start looking at what's going on offensively. And yes, the turnovers are somewhat fluky and shouldn't keep up this way all season, but the lack of
How much longer can we say that?
Well, today's did not look fluky to me the way that many have. There maybe is some pressing.
Even the first is like a tip pass. And so all I mean is that you don't expect them to turn the ball over at this rate for 17, 18 weeks. But they're not getting explosive plays. That's been pretty consistent. Other than last week in the second half, that has been consistent.
Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill did not exist in the first half of this game. Jerick McKinnon led the team at halftime with 15 receiving yards, so that's very atypical.
I didn't think the Titans' defense had it in them, but it's what Mike Vrabel wants in terms of complementary ball. That the Chiefs really only had the ball 3 times in the first half, so you only had to get a couple stops, and they did it.
Mahomes entered the season with a touchdown and interception ratio of almost 5-1. I mean, he's been the greatest quarterback ever statistically to begin his career. So to see him, and it's not just him, but he bears blame with this too, the pressing of the offense and how the turnovers have just piled up. And I think a lot of us who have put our faith in Mahomes and Andy Reid to get this figured out are left scratching our heads, because every time you think that they get it figured out, like in the second half last week against Washington, say, okay, now they're going to move past that. And then this happens, and maybe next week they come out or whenever and they play a big game again. It's like, okay, but now I don't trust them. Now I feel like there's something different this year from last. And when you look at their conference record, which is very bad, I believe it's 1-4. and you look at the teams ahead of them right now, it is going to be tough for the Chiefs to get back to the playoffs where they are right now.
I think their offensive line presented more issues today, Kansas City. Danico Autry, who wherever he goes, he's always showing up on film and not getting a lot of credit, was destructive today. And it's Patrick Mahomes looking, to me, like other quarterbacks when they're under total duress.
3 and 4 is a very manageable situation, though, long term.
That said,
if
they're
you're
very
healthy,
disappointing.
I'm just saying, 3 and 4 is very manageable in a 17-game season to bounce back from and make the playoffs or win the AFC West. The issue is you're stacking problems upon problems now. Like people getting on Chris Jones for his effort. He's always been a guy, like a lot of defensive linemen, who take a few plays off here and there. And so there was some questionable effort on a couple of the Henry runs. You got Frank Clark, who's really killing them in terms of not giving them value. Laughing on the sidelines and stuff. And this is where you do look at the fact that no team's ever made this. It's very hard to make the Super Bowl 3 straight years. When was the last time that a team made the Super Bowl 3 straight years?
The Bills?
Patriots did
Patriots?
it.
Yeah.
Patriots did it once. They didn't win all 3. But it is very hard to keep stacking success, and it feels like they're feeling that right now.
And they have a tough schedule ahead. They are not out of the woods here. They've played a really tough schedule. 5 of their first 7 opponents were playoff contenders, but 3 of the next 4 opponents, Packers, Raiders, and Cowboys. So if they don't get it figured out internally, these games are going to continue to happen. Gravedigger, we got to turn it over to you real quick before we move on, because I know they've won now, I believe, 5 of 6, and a lot of people did not think that peg the Titans as a big-time AFC team early in the season, and now it's hard to deny that they're in the mix.
And that one of the 6 is the Jets.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. I mean, Mark was talking about how Titans fans want more respect. Like, don't lose to the Jets, and then you can have it.
That would help.
And keep coming with defensive performances like this.
Harold Landry looks like a beast. He's up to 7.5 sacks on the year now in a contract year, and he looks like the edge rusher that people thought he was going to be coming out of the draft. Took a few years, but here he is, finally.
It's crazy because they're so shorthanded in the secondary. Them holding KC to 3 is one of the surprising results of the year. The fact that in their last 5 quarters they've outscored the Bills and Chiefs 37-3 is wild.
And the Titans came into this game having not scored on their opening drive 8 straight games, which was the longest active streak in the NFL. And they came out in this game and marched right down the field and score on that Henry touchdown pass that really set the tone, I think, for the whole game.
Are we still going to get these, annoyed tweets from these people on the, according to Wes in the Midwest? I mean, I see it as the Tennessee's not in the Midwest in my book, but annoyed people.
Titans fans, we talked a lot about the Titans today because they're a legit AFC contender.
Yes,
they are. There's so many.
It
makes it fun.
Does it feel? And by the way, Ricky locked up the Ravens today. Does it feel better that that Greg, Mark, and the Wessling brothers all locked up against your team? That has to make it even sweeter.
It was a little nice. I remember we were walking out of here on Thursday, and I said something like, "Oh, I'm sorry about all you guys losing your lock this week." Kind of tongue in cheek. Not really expecting
Hit us with 3 Gravediggers and then send us forward. You deserve it. Give us another one. And give me one more. What a day. All right.
Tongue out of cheek now.
Let's move.
Carr looks to the middle, fires, grabbed in the end zone by Foster Moreau. Jackpot, baby. Vegas touchdown.
Brent Musburger, of course, of KRLV. Yes, the Bisaccia bump. It's real. Derek Carr threw for 323 yards, and listen to this, a 31 of 34 passing performance through a touchdown pass. The Raiders easily defeat the Eagles 33-22. Vegas outgained Philadelphia 443-358. Vegas scored on 5 straight possessions after the first series ended with a Carr interception at the Eagles' 5-yard line. Mark, the Raiders weathered an internal storm that would shipwreck other teams. But this team has played incredibly well in 2 weeks since John Gruden's resignation.
Yes, they have. And were I someone that, had eyes on this game, I could give you a lot more details, but I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing from a distance.
You're a broadcaster. Just
right.
You could give me something an above the treetops viewpoint and then
I'll
throw it back my way. This is how we do it.
Or ask questions.
I have been plagued. I could ask questions. I will say one thing. I have been plagued with a non-enjoyment of Derek Carr for a long time. That's starting to change. He reminds me of Rich Gannon the year they went to the Super Bowl with Gruden. They kept him that entire year.
Rich Gannon was the MVP that year, I believe.
Well, actually, Gruden was actually not on that team either. That was Bill Callahan. So.
But you said Gannon, right? He looked like Gannon?
Gannon was fantastic that season, and Carr looks to me to be the same.
But Carr's got a rifle that Gannon wishes he had. And I know this game wasn't about deep passes, but he had that 43-yard throw to Zay Jones, which was on 3rd and long, I believe. And that, to me, was Derek Carr in 2021. It was just an incredible throw. Got protected pretty well. Trusted his guy, who was Zay Jones, to make a play. Zay Jones makes it. They're just one of the best passing games in the league. The Eagles don't have a great defense, but this is what you do against bad defenses. 31-34. He is a top 5 quarterback. I said the same thing in the previous. I never thought he could play at this level, because he is playing as well as any quarterback in the league.
He just looks so comfortable in the offense. And he's had, stretches and recent.
Everyone was like, well, he almost won the MVP in 2016. It's like, I watched every one of those snaps that year, or 2015. He was overrated that year. Like, his numbers did not belie him being a top 3 or 4 quarterback. He had a great year. But I think this Carr is way better.
I think if you've followed his career from the jump, he has gotten into grooves over stretches where he's been like, you kind of talk yourself into him a little bit, and then he'll take a step back, or the team takes a step back, and you're like, okay. John Gruden was the same way. Gruden seemed to always be in and out when it came to Derek Carr. But right now it's just a sustained level of really good play. And, after the game, Bisaccia called Derek Carr the voice of the Raiders now with Gruden gone, and then Carr repaid that favor by telling the media that he believes Bisaccia should be the coach now and in the future. So it's a big love fest now with Vegas. The season could go one of two ways when you have something like what happened on that Monday with that stunning Gruden resignation, and the Raiders have rallied around.
So one of the beat writers
dysfunction.
One of the beat writers pointed out Bisaccia is so humble. Like, he did his press conferences after Carr and another player, which is like never happens. He was just like, "No, you guys go first."
I mean, or he didn't know the process of the order. Just trying to.
It's just that's a thing. I mean, all they had to do is get rid of John Gruden. They're one of the most complete teams in the league now.
I know. Well, it is.
I'm kidding.
It is. It's just the Raiders were good before Gruden left. They're good again. They just happened. He stepped away when they lost 2 games, and it was just kind of built in this narrative, which was tired immediately, that he left a mess. He came into a mess and he left a mess. No, the Raiders are ready to roll, and I think they have a chance here to make the playoffs. And one last note about Vegas's performance today: they did it without Darren Waller, who was inactive with an ankle injury. They also lost Josh Jacobs, who always seems to be hurt, but he got a chest injury after he ran for 29 yards on 6 attempts in this game, scored, and then left the game. But
they did score 9 points in the last game with Gruden. So I'm not saying it's because of Rich Bisaccia, but it hasn't hurt. It has not hurt.
Change can help if you're getting rid of someone who's just an ego, vacuum, like Gruden.
Nobody's defending John Gruden here.
They were
cherry picking when you point at this game and then you ignore the 3-game winning streak that started the season.
Right.
My point is
he comes in, Bisaccia, after 2 terrible games where they're one of the last ranked offenses in the league, didn't top 250 yards in either one.
Who they played, but
they played the Chargers and the Bears. I mean, okay, those were the 2 games where they struggled offensively. The Chargers. I'm just saying, it hasn't hurt to get a little Bisaccia bump. You get into the bye week. It is a different Raiders team. They haven't hit the bye week like this in a long time.
They played a bad Eagles team today. It was like Eagles they were losing 30-7, and I saw Nick Sirianni on the sideline. You want to talk about a non-bump? He looked like he was on the phone with a car insurance salesman dealing with a car issue. He looked completely disengaged.
The Eagles have lost 5 out of the last 6, and with the Deshaun Watson rumors swirling all over the place, Jalen Hurts, to me, week to week when you watch the way he plays, he's not bad. But you wonder what the Eagles are thinking as they look ahead both to what's on the trade market and what happens come next spring.
Chris Mortensen reported they are not in the Watson sweepstakes. He seemed to indicate Watson was the reason why.
Well, because he's got a no-trade clause, and he can decide, I don't want to go there.
Doesn't want to
They've said Miami is the only place he doesn't want to go.
All right, much more to get to, but first let's take a break. All right, Duck and Cover Sunday continues on.
First, you duck, and then you cover. And very tightly, you cover the back of your neck and your face.
Lobs it far side. Ertz with the catch at the 30. Loose at the 20. Far side 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. Zach Ertz, 47 yards. Becomes the first player ever to have touchdown catches in consecutive games for 2 different teams.
The first ever? That's probably
I heard that too, and that's never happened.
Huh. Well, good for Zach Ertz. That's Dave Pasch of KTAR with the call. DeAndre Hopkins caught a touchdown pass against his former team. And yes, Zach Ertz caught that touchdown pass for his new team. And the Arizona Cardinals scored 31 unanswered points to roll past the Texans, 31-5. What are we even doing here? Mark, your thoughts?
Well, it was 31 unanswered because they came out very messy on offense. And I thought a little bit lethargic, too, to some degree. But it's a good opportunity to talk about not their offense for once, but the Cardinals' defense, which came into this game second in DVOA and looked like it. And I know it's Houston, but this isn't a new thing. They dominated Cleveland and created total havoc a week ago. They've been doing it week after week. It started in week 1 with Chandler Jones having the 5 sacks. He isn't even in the lineup right now, but Marcus Golden wrecked the Texans today with 2 sacks. He had 2 last week. J.J. Watt, Greg, you mentioned this on our Friday broadcast, continues to thrive and look like he belongs more and more. Davis Mills has been really up and down. I mean, at least a little bit up and a lot down at times. Had 23 completions for 135 yards. That's 3.5 yards per pass. That's partly Houston's totally inept, uncreative offense, but it's also Arizona's defense saying, our offense is going to have plenty of time to get back into this because we're in complete control of this game. And after that terrible start for the Cardinals, I think part of their issues, if you look at the last couple weeks, Max Garcia at center, in for Rodney Hudson, who's fantastic, has had issues. He shot the ball over Kyler's head at one point today early on. That happened last week in Cleveland. So there have been issues with that transition at center. And Kyler was running for his life a little bit here. And just they had about, I think, 1 or 2 yards after the first 3 drives. Then they got completely.
Then they won 31-5.
Then they just
I'm not worried about the center too much when they're
it's been 2 weeks in a row. They're lucky that they didn't get into a hole like that against a better opponent. But A.J. Green, 41-yard rope, awesome catch in this thing. DeAndre Hopkins had a catch on one throw that I thought might have been one of Kyler Murray's best of the year, where he showed incredible vision and arm strength finding Hopkins along the sideline. So it turned into everything you thought it would be. It didn't start that way, but this Cardinals defense shows how balanced they are because the offense, when it wants to be, is totally overwhelming, and the defense is for real.
Sometimes a box score does tell you the story, and at least it tells me the story of their season. 6 players on their team had over 50 yards in this game. And to me, that is the story of the Cardinals' offense this season. It is really spread around. You don't expect Ertz to be that guy, but Max Williams was doing it before Ertz. Kirk gets 50, Hopkins 53, Green 66. And then the key lately, over the last month, really, is Edmonds and Connor, both looking good. Kyler Murray has not needed to run at all. His rushing totals has fallen through the floor this year. He's barely running at all. It's kind of amazing. If you can be this good without Kyler Murray running and with Rondale Moore as your 4th receiver, it's like you're cooking with gas.
He's going to make big plays with his legs at certain points of the
season.
Right,
he hasn't needed to.
If you don't need him to do it, that's going to help everything. It's going to make those more effective. It's going to keep him healthier. The Cardinals remain the NFL's only undefeated team. They're 7-0 for the first time since 1974. The Texans are 1-6. They've lost 6 straight.
The bad teams are worse this year. I mean, the Texans have lost their last 3 road games by a combined score of 102-8.
They're non-competitive.
That's crazy.
And the rare instance in the NFL of a team laying that 20.5-point wood, and it was not a problem for the Cardinals. Let's move on. Laying that wood.
Should have locked them up.
20.5.
Not allowed. Although, could you lock up the spread 20?
Let's go.
Interesting dynamic.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
That's 50-50. So really, it's a lesser than taking a favorite.
Snap Rodgers, backpedals,
That's
off to right side end zone, and he's got Tunyon over the shoulder catch, touchdown, and he spikes the end zone. with the football.
Whoa, he spiked the end zone with the football. Now that's
next level.
Spike. Wayne Larrabee with the call, WTMJ. Aaron Rodgers threw touchdown passes to 3 receivers, including that one to forgotten friend Bobby Tanner. And the defense stood tall in the red zone to help the Packers beat Washington 24-10. That's 6 straight wins. 4 in Green Bay. The Packers haven't lost since that 38-3 trouncing at the hand of the Saints on the season opener. Greg, Green Bay continues to efficiently take care of its business.
Weird game. The Washington football team ends up with 126 more yards in this game, more yards per play. That was skewed a little at the end, but not that much. They looked like even teams throughout, except one team has Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and the other team's got Taylor Heineke and McLaurin, and that's not enough. Like the 4th down play early in the game where Rodgers runs for, or actually throws it to Adams after having a roll right, like they should have lost that down, and they end up scoring a touchdown on it on 4th down. There's another long run that Rodgers has on 3rd and long. It's just like great players making impossible plays to stop. Adams had a 26-yard catch later, which was as good a catch and throw that I've seen all year because he just wasn't open at all, and yet they didn't walk away with this game. It's crazy that Washington only ended up with 10 points. To be in the red zone 4 times and not just not get any touchdowns, but not get any points.
Well, I'm looking at this drive chart, and they fumbled on their own 29. Next drive, downs at Green Bay's 1, downs again at Green Bay's 3, an interception at the Green Bay 12, and then they squeeze out a field goal with the game out of reach.
Right. It was crazy. There was one play where Heineke could have walked into the end zone and dove for some reason, and his knee hit the ground, and because of the rule that you're giving yourself up, didn't count. They didn't score
like that
on
rule, by the way. I think we got to calm down a little bit with the giving himself up rule because I understand you want to protect the quarterback and you don't want to hurt the defense, but sometimes you feel like
it's only that rule though, along the goal line, because then you're having to interpret it. It's very confusing. He clearly wasn't giving himself up, but by rule, it was over, and then he threw a bad interception a little bit later. It's pretty much what we've seen out of Taylor Heineke throughout, and I'm just kind of glad that both teams protected Cardinals, Packers this Thursday night game that I'm excited for. 6-1 versus 7-0. They got through to it. The Packers have some concerns. They could not run the ball at all in this game. They're very banged up on defense, so I think I'd give them credit for being resourceful, but they are very injured, and they're not the same secondary without Jair Alexander.
I just Googled Ryan Fitzpatrick news.
Oh, yeah, he's
let's see. Report, Washington's Ryan Fitzpatrick still weeks away from return, still on crutches.
That's our guy, Rap Sheet. That was his Sunday morning bomb drop.
That's a good one.
He's been doing those each week. I'll check
update.
I'll check the phone at 2:30 in the morning, and he's filed 3 written pieces. I mean, it's not like breaking Watergate necessarily, but they're all valuable pieces of information.
That's the game. They all play the game. They have their little nugs, and they hold it. And they wait till the morning shows, and then they say, "These are my nugs." Ian, these are my nugs. Schefter, these are my nugs. Maybe Glazer if he's not working out. I'll drop a nug over here. You got Lock and 4 over here. Hey, I got nugs.
A lot to spread around there.
Yeah, a lot of nugs. Here's a nug for you.
Yeah.
Lazard and Tunyon getting involved.
Bobby Tunyon.
That's what we were calling for a couple weeks ago. Lazard did it last week, did it this week. That's a good sign. Tunyon involved. They need these guys to be involved. And Rashawn Gary has been great this year defensively and really kind of took over this game at points. Washington just has nothing else other than McLaurin. It's just such a steep fall. And then when McLaurin takes a pass in the end zone off the helmet, it's not Washington's day.
All right, you guys ready for yet another blowout?
Take us there.
This Packers cover underneath a table or desk or anything else close by.
3rd down and goal. The shotgun set, the look. Here's Brady looking, throws the pass toward the end. Caught ball. Touchdown. Mike Evans has 3 today. What a catch by Evans. Fire the cannons. It's Mike Evans' day today.
Gene Deckerhoff, WFUS with the call. Tom Brady, first guy ever to throw 600 touchdown passes. That's cool. And the Buccaneers beat up on the Bears 38-3, excuse me. It is the best start to the regular season in the history of the Bucs. 6-1. That's 4 straight wins. They avenge a loss to the Bears from a year ago. And Brady, Greg, in a game that wasn't even like a great Brady game, still goes 20 for 36, 211, and 4 TDs.
And breaks, one of the biggest marks in NFL history, according to you guys, 600 touchdowns.
Oh, Greg hated this.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't.
This was,
like true football nerds, this is the classic thing that you rain discontent on. This doesn't
counting
matter.
stats. Counting stats don't matter.
That's not what I'm saying. Mark just did not believe that Mike Evans did not know that it was the 600 touchdown.
By the way, which is not fact. That is your theory. I don't believe Mike Evans had no concept that Tom Brady was approaching 600
I don't know whether he did or not. I just was saying maybe he didn't know because you were getting on Mike Evans. He gave the ball, to the guy in the crowd. It became a big story. The Bucs ended up negotiating, getting the ball back. All they gave him was $1,000 gift card.
500, Greg. Facts.
At the
500
at the team store. I thought it was
no. It's 500. And by the way, the reason it got on my radar because we love doing these hits for Sky Sports and. I was under the impression that Mike Evans gave the ball to a child and kept talking about the recipient as a child. The child was 29-year-old Byron Kennedy, who did have a big, large, straw hat on. Looked sort of like a child to me. But, Greg, it was $500. And my contention was that if you don't think that Bucs players knew that Tom Brady was approaching 600.
Are you guys about to argue more about the gift card?
Well, Greg Allman of The Athletic says 1,000. I don't know if he's wrong, but he says 1,000.
You guys should fight about that.
Well, we got bad information then before the show.
All right, listen. This was great. This is some good newsroom heat between Rosenthal and Sessler. But I do think it is notable if you are an NFL player to throw your 600th touchdown.
Absolutely.
That's what I came down.
All I meant was 3 touchdowns came quickly. What a crazy first quarter that he had 3 touchdowns, and yet on his first 16 throws, they had 51 yards. The Bears defense, I swear, played about as well.
That was Jameis-esque.
Right, as well as you possibly could play. I'm not saying they played great, but they competed in a game that you lost 38-3.
What was it, short fields? Or
it was 5 times that the Bucs started in Bears territory out of 6. 5 out of 6, it's what are you going to do at that point? And Justin Fields turned the ball over 5 times.
So much for progress for the Chicago offense, which was completely overwhelmed in this game. They turned the ball over 5 times. They were, 0 for 2 in the red zone. It's just, man, it's tough sledding right now to be a Bears fan because it just seems they're just not fun to watch. And even though they have 3 wins this year, it doesn't feel like that. This doesn't feel like a team that's in the mix in the NFC. This feels like a team that's a long way off.
You just don't – I don't know who to trust in Chicago. And, I guess they did put Justin Fields out there like we've been asking for since, early May. But it's not going well around him. And, I don't care about the body language stuff on the sideline, which people are going crazy about. But he looked demoralized.
Here's the thing. So whether it's 500 or 1,000, the gift card – so it's basically, here, take this card,
right?
Take it to the team store, and get 4 jerseys or whatever, and then you'll become our billboard even more than you already are. So that's kind of a win for the team, and then we'll give you a ball, and that ball better be signed by Tom Brady. I want to know.
I would imagine it
better not just be some ball.
Well, here's
even
an
Mike
object,
Evans signing.
The game ball.
Here's an object that probably down the road in some sort of auction could net you $500,000 or $1 million, but instead here's either $1,000 or $500 gift card depending on what.
Yeah,
who
to
you
be
believe.
Our billboard, our walking billboard.
He could have ran it. He could have.
It's called a slap in the face.
Run a tougher bargain. It was up to him. He was trying to be.
How about
generous.
real money?
He's trying to be generous to
rent money
to the team that he loves, but he already is because he bought those tickets. And I'm with you. He just needed to drive a little harder bargain there.
How about a new car?
Tough
right.
spot.
Also, let's say you are even an adult that loves wearing football clothing. Okay, still $1,000 is a lot to have to spend.
The only point of spending $1,000 at a team store is to give people a lot of things. Because what are you going to do with that?
He's going to be a very predictable gift giver, which will probably disenfranchise him from some.
The thing that struck me early though with this Bucs offense is and we've talked about it, is their running game early in this game when it was, scoreless. The first touchdown drive was Fournette running through him, was Ronald Jones running through him, and I really loved. They kept trying to put up points in this game and throw the ball, but the fact that they could run early for 182 matters to me. The throws to Evans were crazy. The anticipation. Brady's throwing these way way before he comes out of his breaks. He handed the ball to Evans 46 yards down the field, even though he missed some throws or had some struggles at some point. Like, he was awesome. And on the other side, Fields just has got to speed up. He's just really frustratingly slow with his delivery and his decision making, and to the point where he got hit while he was throwing I think 4 times today. And a couple of them were fumbles, and the one that really stuck out to me was at the end where Levante David's right in front of him. I mean, he's just about to destroy Fields, and he's early in that windup, and it reminds me a little bit of Cam Newton and Tannehill, who have gotten away with this. And he just, keeps doing that windup. I mean, and he just gets absolutely crushed. And he's not even, close to finished with throwing the ball, and that's why he fumbled 3 times today on top of the 3 picks.
And, a little sneak preview, I'm going to keep the Cardinals at number 1 in the power rankings, but I don't know if anybody's beating the Bucs right now. I think the Bucs are humming. I think they look so good. And just virtually, maybe the defense is a work in progress, but the offense, it doesn't really matter who's missing. They just have layers of talent and the best quarterback ever at the control.
The crazy thing is the things I remember from this game are Tom Brady yelling at people. He was so mad O.J. Howard didn't know he was the hot route on one play.
Right.
He was so mad at Mike Evans didn't know he was the hot route on another play. And on another, he was yelling at the coaches when they're ahead 35-3 because I think they didn't get the play in time, and he had to take a timeout. It's like...
So,
guy, man, he's intense, this Tom Brady.
Tom Brady is no longer with the Patriots, but that doesn't mean the Patriots still can't dunk on the New York Jets.
How can we tell when the atomic bomb may explode? And a teacher is explaining that there are 2 kinds of attack, with warning and without any warning.
And now the Patriots with a 1st and 10 from the New York 25. Bourne motions into the backfield from the pistol. Floater to Bortz. He's looking to throw, and he tosses a lob to Aguilar. Wide open! Touchdown, Patriots!
Bob Sochi with the call, WBZ. Zolak just making sounds in the background like a feral animal. Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar kicked off a slaughter in Foxborough. Mac Jones threw 2 touchdown passes in his first 300-yard game. Damian Harris and J.J. Taylor each ran for 2 scores. The Pats won for the first time at home, rolling past the Jets. Wait for it, 54-13. And don't think I didn't notice, even though Catalan and Lofton totally out to lunch. I mean, Bill Belichick is calling deep shots up with 47 points, trying to get the 50 burger on the team he hates more than any team ever. Everyone else sees it. And somehow the CBS team, who have nothing else to talk about in this blowout, find it not worth mentioning that Bill Belichick's going out of his way to put up 50 on the Jets. Well, he did it. And it couldn't get any uglier for the Jets, who, in addition to getting embarrassed, and it's an indictment of the entire organization and coaching staff once again, they lose Zach Wilson, who got hit twice in a row, down low, no flags thrown, of course, and he suffered a knee injury. He described it after the game as feeling a pop. They believe it's a PCL injury, and they'll know more after an MRI on Monday. None of that sounds remotely good, and the Jets are as big of a mess right now as I can ever remember in all my years as a fan. But if you're a Patriots fan, you love that some things never change.
I think their offense has gotten better each week. Mac Jones is going down the field. He
looks great, Mac Jones.
You get Jonnu Smith involved. Nelson Aguilar hits a couple plays over 25. It's still not efficient. Those 2 guys had 10 targets and 4 catches combined. But you do something. Your boy Damian Harris, at least he's delivering for your fantasy team, Dan.
Oh, yeah. Things are great.
I think they absolutely go a little extra because it's the Jets. Although the Patriots kind of like to go extra against anyone. I mean, the Gravedigger will remember some Titans games where, for some reason, they just wanted to put up 60 in the snow.
Did you watch the end of the game?
No, but I mean, it was the same conversation in that 59 in the snow game against Tennessee, them taking just deep shots after they get to 50. That's what they do.
At one point, they get to midfield, and it's like, okay, the Pats are going to get the 3 points, and then they get pushed back in a holding, and it's like 2nd and 17 with 3 minutes to play, and it's just like, okay, they'll run it twice, they'll kill the clock down, punt it away, game over. And what do? They call a pass play, then a bomb downfield, and it's like, okay, we know exactly. Hey, Catalan!
Well,
buddy,
hold on.
Wake up.
Like what?
That's where you're going to put your anger?
Well,
I guess it's got to go somewhere.
Come back to us.
What? go back to Thursday's show and Friday's television show where we kept hoisting up the Patriots as the team that the Jets were going to go beat this weekend.
Who said that?
Absolutely, this was Greg. Honestly, like we were talking about the Patriots.
I picked them to win by 10. I said this Patriots
What
team.
am I listening to? Honestly.
No, Mark, I'll back you up. On Thursday, we were all like, well, the Patriots aren't playing their best. Like
what was the case,
they could win. There is no case.
What was the case? Because it's not.
Here's the
I'm
case.
not looking
They
to
haven't
knock the
beaten
Jets,
anyone
but
the Jets and the Texans. That's the case. The Jets played pretty good defense for 4 games. Then they went to London. And then in this game, they gave up more yards than they have since the turn of the century, which is crazy to a Mac Jones Patriots team. That was the case.
I don't know because, I just don't see two teams equal on any level. And the Jets.
If you want to know what my thoughts were heading into the game, it was, oh, my God, how do you flatline in London? Oh, my God, why aren't you building something? Please show me something this week in New England. This should not be a team. This isn't the old Patriots where you should go up there and get absolutely demolished. This is not the way it is anymore. You don't need to be that team on the wrong side. And yet, that's exactly what happened because the Jets are on a biblical level play down to whatever the expectations are. And I just think it is great for the Patriots. It's good to have a team that you could always bully like this. But for the Jets and Robert Saleh, who lost his temper a little bit in the postgame, was using some salty language. He knows what a bad look it was today for the Jets, that they would have a bye week to prepare for this game. And even before Zach and Wilson went out, I think it was 17-0. I mean, this was a game that they just no-showed on, and it's such a bad look for the entire organization to get beat 54-13 when the Patriots are who they are now, and you're supposed to be a team on the rise. It's disgusting. That's all I can say.
They have no identity, and there are plenty of first-year coaches that have not a lot to work with, that if anything else, some of those teams you can leave that season, that year one, saying I know what they are. I have no idea what the Jets are right now, and I'm surprised.
They have 11 games. It is surprising.
11 games with Zach Wilson because if he's
or it gets worse.
If he's seriously hurt,
I mean, it can go either way.
You lose the evaluation of your rookie quarterback, and then it's all out the window. I mean, I stayed home in the early part of the games today to watch this with my dad who's in town. And this type of letdown, it's just unacceptable. And Jets fans, this is not acceptable. You know this. The organization needs to be held accountable for how poor and the product they are putting out there is unacceptable, and it needs to change. And I don't know what they do, because last year when they were embarrassing themselves and embarrassing Jets fans, they said, we'll fire the coach, we'll get a new quarterback. But now we have the new coach and we have the new quarterback, and you're still embarrassing your fan base. So tell me what you're going to do now. What are you going to do? Because I'm fed up. I'm at the place where Chris Wessling was with the Bengals, and I have 2 sons, and I'm supposed to make them Jets fans?
No, you're not. You don't have.
That's what you want me. I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. I'm done. I'm legitimately angry. This is not performative. We have to move on before I get in trouble. I'm not mad right now.
Handoff for Booker, who runs left. Makes
to
a
team
miss
with
to
Brandon
the 15,
Bolden,
to the 10, to the 5.
receiver.
Touchdown, Giants, Devontae Booker.
Inexcusable.
19-yard scamper. Icing on the cake for the Giants' second win of the season.
All right, so it wasn't all a loss for the New York teams. Even though the Giants were getting booed out of their building early on against the Panthers, they put it together. And somehow the Jets are involved in this, too. Bob Papa, WFAN, with the call. Daniel Jones threw a 5-yard touchdown pass and made an amazing one-handed 16-yard grab in the game's only true touchdown drive, a 25-3 win over the Panthers, who have crystallized into goose droppings after their 3-0 start. Matt Rule benched Sam Darnold in favor of P.J. Walker in the fourth quarter of this game. After the game, he quickly proclaimed Darnold will remain his starter going forward. Let's hear from Mr. Rule.
And then went ahead and did it. The last thing I want to do is embarrass somebody. And I know that this is going to be the story this week. But, I really believe sometimes this is, you go back to the olden days before all the pressure, quarterbacks would sometimes sit for a little bit and have to come back. So Sam will define who he is. This is up to him.
Great.
They also asked Sam Darnold, if he should keep the starting job, and he just said, yeah, that decision's not up to me. He's lucky P.J. Walker came in and was brutal. The game was only 2 scores at that point. Walker went 3 for 14. It certainly did not look any better than Sam Darnold. but it was hard to look too much worse. Darnold, 25 throws, 111 yards, had a Grizzly interception on what was really their only good offensive drive where he just sailed it. Bad decision and a bad throw. Took a safety by throwing the ball away, kind of panicking under pressure. Rule went through the mistakes. He was saying he was missing open guys. He was throwing off his back foot. And I think when he said missing open guys, I think he meant not seeing it either. And that's kind of what I saw in this game from Darnold. He was at the point where he was just not allowing his team a chance to win. And we saw these games, when he was on the Jets. We've seen a couple now with the Panthers. He actually has 8 games where he's averaged under 2 adjusted yards per attempt since he's been in the league. The rest of the NFL since then, no one else has more than 3. And so when Darnold goes bad, it really goes bad, and it becomes an avalanche. And Rule can say whatever he wants. We'll get to you, Giants, but Rule can say whatever he wants in that moment. He has to. He has to keep playing Darnold. What's he going to do? At least right now. Immediately after the game, we see Joseph Person, the Panthers beat reporter with The Athletic, saying that the Panthers are involved in the Deshaun Watson trade negotiations. That's been followed up by Florio at PFT and Aaron Wilson at the Houston, some radio station. I forget which one right now. Both saying that the Panthers are involved too. So that, to me, speaks a lot louder than what Rule said.
Yeah, and again, I mean, Watson has a no-trade clause, so he can decide where he wants to go. I mean, this is the second week in a row where I'm looking at this. Robbie Anderson, 3 catches off of 9 targets. Last week, he was an absolute liability. It's on Darnold, and it sounds like Darnold's just not seeing the field. He's not processing along with all the other mistakes. But DJ Moore also 6 catches off of 10 targets. Like, there are, this was Sam Darnold's in such a good situation. He has so much talent around him. There's no Christian McCaffrey, but the wideouts aren't helping. And then I'm watching a Giants team that has their starting roster, skill position-wise, on the bench.
It was an interesting comparison because the Giants' offense was missing 7 of their original starters, including their top 4 playmakers. And what you saw was a young quarterback who did everything he could despite the situation. Didn't light it up, but managed the game, played about as well as he could, and Daniel Jones, and then Darnold, who crumbled under the situation.
It's a tough situation. And, they picked up Darnold's option. So it doesn't mean he's their quarterback for sure next year, but it's a big financial investment.
They owe him $18 million guaranteed. They did not need to do that. Very similar to Teddy Bridgewater, where they gave him that second year. And Darnold is reminding me of like a destitute man's Teddy right now because everything's short of the sticks. Everything on third down, everything is just like a 3-yard gain, and then they punt.
But you can sit him if you find someone better. That's just money. Right?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's
they
fine.
will. They will.
And maybe Matt Rule will be on board with Deshaun Watson. Maybe he wouldn't. But if David Tepper's on board, the owner, that's all that matters. He would make a move. And if Matt Rule, what is Matt Rule going to say? Because the owner gave him 2 opportunities to have a quarterback in the building that made things happen, and he's 0 for 2. So it's not over. And maybe Christian McCaffrey comes back and Sam Darnold stabilizes his play, and they are a team that's in the playoff mix, but it is not looking good right now.
The crazy thing is their defense played really well in this game until the very end. Like you said, there was only 1 real touchdown drive. The Giants only had 1 drive over 40 yards in 13 tries. They kept being put in tough spots, and the Panthers' defense actually held up and kept it a game for a long time. So to me, it hasn't been the Panthers' defense, but I'm concerned. I heard P.J. Walker talking after the game, and they asked him about Darnold, and there's like, how's he been the last couple of weeks? And he used the words, there's been a noticeable change in the last couple of weeks. But,
who said that?
His P.J. Walker, his backup. Basically just like, I think he's feeling what's going on, and he's trying to get through it.
It's a bummer, but we'll see what happens. They need McCaffrey back, and it won't be week 9 at the earliest.
This Giants team, I haven't given up on them totally.
Yeah, they're fighting.
To
they're
do
banged
what?
up. Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean at this point when
to win
we're
6 or 7
jumping
games.
on their fan base?
To win 6 or 7 games, which means you go about 500 after you're 1-5. That's all. That's about it.
All right, let's take a break here, and then we will finish out the early games. All right, we're back. Let's talk about a close game. Those things do happen in the NFL.
So here is 36 yards to win the game. Snap, spot, kick from Koo is away, and it is good. Atlanta wins 30-28 is the final here today in South Florida.
I mean, was West Durham out late
Catch
celebrating
the
the
fever.
Braves? The Braves win the pennant. Maybe that's why West Durham a little quiet on the game winner for Younghoe Koo. WZGC with the call. Good call. Like GC, good call. I don't know if that was a great call, but West is a pro. And he'll bounce back. Matt Ryan connected on 2 clutch passes to Kyle Pitts to get Atlanta into field goal range on the final drive, setting up Koo's 36-yarder as time expired. And the Falcons, the Dolphins. I mean, the Jets are more miserable than anyone in that division, but they have the same record as the Dolphins, who are now 1-6 after a 30-28 win for the Falcons. And, Mark, that's 2 straight wins for Atlanta, 6 straight losses for Miami. And the Falcons are in the murky mix in the NFC.
Yeah, I think if you look at 2 teams that are in various stages of rebuilding, the Falcons much earlier than where Miami thought they were, there's a little more to like here. And it starts with Kyle Pitts, who, you guys were there when he went 9 for 119 with a touchdown against the Jets. 163 yards today, looked completely unstoppable, had this incredible one-handed catch down the sideline. I mean, he makes them fun to watch.
Right.
They simply would not be
He was the
otherwise.
difference in the game.
And
that set up 3 points, and he set up the final 3 points.
I saw on Twitter, they're just like, they're like, we don't care if he's a tight. They're lining him up as a wide receiver on the outside, and he's just winning battles.
Well, so, I mean, I think the narrative here would be so different had the Falcons crumbled on that final drive where Pitts did play a role, because it's all about Tua for Miami. And here's the thing, it's like he's just so up and down. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns on the day. He led 2 nice drives at the end. He put him in a position to win if the Miami defense could have stopped the Falcons inside the 2-minute warning. They couldn't. He also had a terrible red zone interception, and he had an awful throw where he was getting kind of dragged to the ground on a second pick. So it's like you look at these interceptions for these quarterbacks, and it's not to blame Tua, because I see all these people, Tua's not the problem. It's just that when you look at the interceptions that he has, they leave you concerned. He did some good things today, but for me, like Matt Ryan, who, I guess we're kind of post Matt Ryan. We're not getting excited about Matt Ryan the same way at this point.
Speak
because
for yourself.
Well, Greg, but you're excited about every single quarterback, so I don't know how to monitor anything that's happening.
I'm post Matt Ryan as an elite quarterback.
I think he's just not a buzzy guy at this point.
But he's a good quarterback. He's still good as we're seeing.
He had a terrible fumble in this game that brought the Dolphins right back into it too. But this was, Miami's lost back-to-back games on last-second field goals. They're a snake-bitten club. It's not just that, because there are all these whispers. They're also on the Deshaun Watson thing, and they talked about the fact that Tua during the week was hearing all that Deshaun Watson stuff, and that they had to kind of like sequester him away from it and kind of get his mind right. And that,
what does that mean?
Well, I mean, I don't want to add more to it than they said on the broadcast. And I mean, he talked about it too, and he's like, I do hear that stuff, but you just can't focus on it. And that Charlie Fry, the quarterback coach, who apparently also calls plays, we're hearing
so many play calls,
was like pulling him away just to watch film, because I think if you're young and you're him, it is destructive to hear that all the people around you want someone else to do what you're doing.
That's very tough. It's very tough, but also he's a pro now, and that's just part of it's. I mean, the story is the way it's all unfolding, and who Deshaun Watson is and what's going on with him makes it even bigger a story that's hard to avoid. But like the Dolphins, I guess you could say they're snake bit, but last week their coach essentially loses them the game with terrible time management, and you get beat by a winless team. And then this week, you dig out of a hole, you have a lead, and you just need to make a stop to steal a win, and you can't do it. So it's, it's like bad teams get beat late.
I'll offer this. They're also just not very good this season.
Right. They were given a life preserver from the schedule makers, getting Jags Falcons back to back. Maybe you can save your season, and they feel like a team that really isn't ready to have their season saved. The Falcons, on the other hand, get the Giants football team, Jets and Dolphins, really might be the bottom 4 in your power rankings in a row. Mm-hmm. They get those 4 in a row. They go 3-1. They really should have gone 4-0, because I don't know how they blew that Washington game at the end. So to me, they're a little lucky to be 3-3, but you'd rather take care of these games than not. They have some things to be excited about. When you're handing it off to Cordarrelle Patterson on the biggest play of the game to pick up short yardage to basically run the clock out and set up the field goal, and he's like your short yardage running back, that's fun.
I do think that if you look at their offense, I know you're right. The opponents take them into consideration, but compared to where we were early in the year, like the Arthur Smith offense, you can see elements of it. Moments where it looks a little bit, minus Derrick Henry passing game-wise, Titan-esque, during some of their higher moments. And I thought Matt Ryan was a little more daring with the ball today, throwing it deep.
I think what the Falcons are going to be is they're going to beat these bad teams. They'll hang in some games against okay teams, and they'll just get beat badly by the good teams.
And their
That's
defense is a gigantic mess.
I am not buying in on the Falcons, but good for them getting these W's. All right.
Are they as spicy as the Giants that we're excited about that are going to win 6 games according to the?
Well, I just thought the Giants were like the best 1-3 team, and then the best 1-4 team, and the injuries
I can't keep track of who were on fire.
I just think they're like a top 20-ish team, and they're not quite as bad as the record. That's all. They're about the same.
Sessler fired up about being into the Giants. I like that.
I just think
they didn't have
there's no bar measuring.
They didn't have anyone.
What's getting our loins on fire.
They didn't have anyone. I'm just looking for teams that keep me interested. The Giants are still that team, one of those teams.
How about that?
To each his own.
Finally, another game with a huge spread, but it actually ended up being closer than anyone expected.
From the 12, Goff back to throw. Aaron Donald hits him. Throw end zone. It's picked. Intercepted at the goal line by Jalen Ramsey. He's out to the 10. Right sideline 20. A stiff arm as Ramsey preserves a 25-19 lead.
There. Oh, I'm not going to buy those performance from me tonight. The Jets took that from me. JB Long with the call, KSB, and our buddy JB Long. Matthew Stafford passed for 334 and 3 touchdowns, but the hero was Jalen Ramsey, who stepped in front of a Jared Goff pass for the big interception that helped seal a 28-19 win over Jared Goff and the still winless Lions at SoFi Stadium. This was a game, boys, that really had, it had blowout embarrassment for Jared Goff written all over it. And then we got the Dan Campbell experience again. And I got to, give Dan, you want to talk about bad teams that are spicy? The Lions are a little bit spicy because their head coach fears nothing. He does not fear death. And if someone is not afraid to die, then they are always going to be difficult to defeat. And in this case, they get the ball, and the whole thing was you got to keep the ball out of the hands of the Rams. And what do? They get the ball. They score a touchdown. They kick an onside kick. They recover the onside kick. They go down. They get the ball. They get stopped on 4th down. They call a fake punt. Later in the game, they do it again. And all these things went the way of the Lions. Unfortunately, all those things went their way, and they still couldn't find a way to win, which tells you the disparity here between the two teams, that the Lions literally threw the kitchen sink at the Rams and still couldn't find a way. So that's how I'll remember this game. The other thing I'll remember about it is Jared Goff he sniffed revenge and came close to one of the better revenge wins in a long time, but it was the Goff interception at the end of a 15-play drive that chewed up 9 minutes in the 4th quarter where they had a chance to go ahead, and instead he essentially cost them the game. And, Sean McVay breathed a deep sigh of relief when that happened.
Wasn't that play so telling, too, though? Because that's not the first play this season where it was just Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey being the two best players on the field and just winning the game for their team. Donald gets the pressure, gets Goff to force a throw in the red zone. Rams fans have seen that before. A little panicked under pressure. Wasn't like a crazy, crazy terrible throw, but Ramsey made a great play on the ball, and game over. Bye-bye.
It's probably, if you're the Rams, if you're Les Snead, it couldn't have happened at a better time in your home, across from our workplace at SoFi. That Jared Goff's meltdown leads to a close Rams victory. And I don't know if this is outside of fantasy circles and outside of like Los Angeles local news, I don't think Cooper Kupp is getting the attention he should. Another 10 catches for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's week after week with this guy.
Yeah, he is on a pace that will set records if he continues it. And that is certainly a surprise, but it just shows it's a bit of, I don't want to say an indictment of Goff, but it shows how great Matthew Stafford is, that he could take a very good receiver and make him a great one. And I will throw out one more thing, the old Mike Lombardi 4-point play, another big misfire from Goff, and it was a little bit of a miscommunication with his running back DeAndre Swift. But again, on a play late in the game when the Rams had a chance to score 7 and go up by 5, and on a third down, Swift was open. It's a touchdown if he puts it on him. But Goff kind of stuttered a little bit and kind of threw Swift off, who then moved off the route and fanned out, and then Goff threw it where he was previously, incomplete pass. And I think that's just the kind of stuff when Dan Campbell says in the press conference last week, we need him to be better, Goff. But I just think this is who Goff is.
They're well coached. They made the red zone 5 times today. They more than the Rams.
And
they
they didn't score
the
one touchdown.
Didn't get one.
That's the problem.
Didn't get one. It's amazing. Like, Kupp to me and the situation are great, and they're making a very good Stafford look better. You know what I mean? Like, I think it goes both ways. For Kupp to be this good, it's awesome.
And yes, they did meet it at midfield after the game. Jared Goff and Sean McVay. We don't have to hear about that anymore. The Lions are 0-7, but a spicy 0-7. The Rams 6-1, which takes us to Sunday Night Football. Unfortunately, no Nick Shook this week. We had some technical difficulties. Nick, we look forward to your presence next week. It's not the same without the pipe to Sunday Night Football. A lot of people have said that to him.